Okay, we are now live. Welcome back to our viewing audience. We are now at the portion of the program where we will be talking to our council candidates. We have Lisa Henderson, Jim McNulty, Chris Toms, and Chris, tell me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Good, thank you. And Omodemola Williams. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Just to review, we have several rounds of questions. Candidates are going to start off by introducing themselves, and then for each round, they have 2.5 minutes to respond to the question. The order will change each round. So the first round will start with Lisa, but then the next round will start with Jim. We want to give everyone the opportunity to go first or go last or go in the middle. Last but not least, we do have some candidate-specific questions. We will talk a little bit more about that, but those are some special questions we have, so we are ready to get going. All right, so the first round is going to be the council candidate introductions. So we are going to start with Lisa. Let me get the timer going. All right, we are ready.
Hello, my name is Lisa Henderson, and I'm running for re-election for the council member office. A little about myself. I was born in Montgomery County, so I'm a native to Montgomery County. Born in Rockville. I can hear Rockville folks cheering about that now. I actually was born in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, and where I learned about community. And then my family when I was in the second grade, moved to Durwood, and Durwood is where I grew up. As an adult, I moved all the way, a couple of miles away from Durwood to Gaithersburg, and I've lived in Gaithersburg for the last 29 years, and it is a place I call home. I had the fortunate experience of living overseas, where it was quite a journey. Where I did not speak the language. I moved to Switzerland and lived in an Italian region, so it gave me a understanding at when I came back home, an understanding of being in a community where you don't speak the language, where you don't recognize the culture, where everything is new, and you must learn how to do things like speak to the postman about your mail being delivered. So it was a great lesson, a great journey, but also glad when I came back home to the city of Gaithersburg, who welcomed me with open arms. I am excited to run for re-election, and I'm excited to hear the questions today. And I want to thank the East Gaithersburg United folks for putting this forum together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We're moving on to hear from Jim.
Right. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I want to thank Chaz Wilson and EGU for organizing this forum. My name is Jim McNulty, and I am honored to have served you on the City Council these last 4 years. In my role, I also serve as the liaison to the Old Town Advisory Committee, as well as the Cultural Arts Advisory Committee. I'm a longtime parishioner at St. Martin of Tours Catholic Church. I've been on their school advisory board, finance committee. I've been a lector, a Eucharistic minister. I've also been a Little League coach, and I'm the past president of the Saybrook Homeowners Association. It's a long way of saying I've been pretty involved in my 16 years living here in Gaithersburg. You know, a big reason I ran for office 4 years ago was to make sure that the east side of Gaithersburg had a voice. And while there's definitely more work to do, I'm really proud of the successes that we've had. You know, 4 years ago, all we could talk about was Lake Forest Mall. And I'm thrilled that today our council approved the schematic development plan. The demo permit and final site plans are currently under review, and the asbestos remediation has begun. So it's a project that promises to be transformational, not just the city at large, but particularly for the east side of Gaithersburg. In addition to that, we've made a lot of investments in Old Town. We have toolbox grants and state grants that help to remove the arcade and paint OTC. In fact, since its inception, that we've had 15 toolbox projects totaling almost $350,000. We've made intersection improvements at Summit and Diamond, including pedestrian safety improvements that are part of the Safe Routes to School program. And the thing I'm most excited about is that we currently have in the design phase a new traffic light at South Summit Avenue and Old Town Avenue in Old Town. And if you've had to drive that corridor over the tracks, you know how challenging that can be. So lots to talk about tonight. I'm really excited to be here, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Now we're moving to Chris.
Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to East Gaithersburg United for putting this forum together. My name is Chris Toms. I'm running for Gaithersburg City Council to bring a new generation of leadership to City Hall. I was raised in Gaithersburg by wonderful parents, and I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister. My Nana raised my mom and aunt in West Deer Park, so I'm a 3rd generation Gaithersburg resident. My 2 older brothers, my younger sister, and I went to Quince Orchard High School. One of my brothers is a travel influencer with his wife and baby girl at Travelin' Toms. My other brother is a math teacher at Sligo Middle School and a cross-country coach at Whitman High School. My sister is starting her 2nd year as a teacher at Farmland Elementary School. So I'm very engaged in educational issues as we get to those later on. After graduating, I decided to dedicate myself to public service, and I now work in legislative affairs for the state of Maryland. I also serve on Gaithersburg's Transportation Committee and previously served on the election committee in my HOA. Lastly, I attend a Church of the Redeemer in the Air Park area, just outside of Gaithersburg's boundaries. If you see me there, please say hello. I decided to run because I've seen too many friends move out of Gaithersburg because of a lack of affordability, and convenient transportation, and for better job opportunities. I believe in a future where our neighborhoods are safer, our local economy is stronger, and our city remains a vibrant, welcoming place for all generations. I'm looking forward to your questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Now we are going to Omo. He has given me permission to call him Omo.
Can I start?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. And again, thank you for having us. This is such a wonderful opportunity. I get a chance again to speak with all of you and share my values and morals. So again, my name is Amadamola Williams. It's Omo. You can call me whatever. And so I'm running for City Council of Gaithersburg. What I bring, I'm here to bring leadership through a different equitable lens. I believe the city should be reflective of all of its constituents. And my experience, my life experience throughout everything has led me to this moment. I've been a community coalition organizer, basically a political lobbyist. I've served as board under numerous organizations. All of this has prepared me to serve for the city. I'm also part of the PTA as well. I think that leadership should be rooted in collaboration, transparency, and deep understanding of a government that's like in a co-collaborative governance where the city, community, nonprofits, the church, where everybody can have a say in this, where it comes to making just everyday leadership decisions. I believe in a city where not that we as a community come to the city, where the city comes to you actually, and not for like coming to you for your money. We do want your money, but we come to you for your needs. What do you want? And so that's a little bit about me, and I look forward, and I'm actually curious to responding to your questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are going to start with our first round. And actually, we are going to go in the same order as the last round. So let me start with the question. round will start with Lisa. So question 1, development and Lake Forest were ranked as top priorities with historical preservation also ranking high. How can the desire for new development be balanced with preserving the historical character of areas such as Old Town? You may begin.
Thank you. That's an important question, and a question that we hear all the time in terms of historical preservation, particularly with lots of new development. So Lake Forest Mall is it's within my heart because as I was born in Montgomery County, I actually learned to ice skate and at Lake Forest Mall. It was a place that we went where our parents were comfortable dropping us off, and we'd run around with friends. Where the rival schools would show up before and after football games, and it is important. As we were going through this, that was in mind for me as we were working with the developers to put this program to put this development together. The outcome for me has been an increase in the character of Gaithersburg. If you haven't had a chance to go to the Gaithersburg website and look at the drawings and look what will become, there is housing, 1,600 units with affordable housing mixed with mixed units in. Also, parks, walkable places within employment and businesses within that property. And it still maintains, it's still in the drawings, you'll see that it still feels like Gaithersburg. And it was very important to me personally, and I think we pulled it off to have that development still maintain the character. It's true for all developments that we do. We look at the neighborhood that it's going into, how does it fit? It doesn't always fit, and so it's not always the best answer, but it is something that we take into consideration. It's something that I take into consideration now and always will in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Sorry, I think I was muted there. Hi. So it's a great question. I mean, it's always a balance when you're looking at development and historical preservation. And really a lot of the job of being a city council member is really being able to balance competing interests, right? It's not always black and white, like, this is right, this is wrong. It's, these are different visions, and how do you, either choose, or do you blend, or, what is that? And, a lot of that comes from public input. We had a really robust public hearing schedule with Lake Forest and with other developments across the city. And it's important for us to be able to hear from the community, and all of that information is what we have to weigh in addition to staff and their recommendations as well. And you look at how we've developed over the years, and you look at things like the Old Town the Old Town Station apartments, and the choices that were made with some of the materials and the architecture. Is how do you make it fit in with a historic area? And as we went through the Lake Forest process, creating that sense of place was really important to me and my colleagues on the council. And if you looked at the evolution of the plans, like when they first made their proposal, it was kind of just another town center. And that was one of my concerns. I really wanted to make sure that, Lake Forest was unique, and that we weren't going to be cannibalizing our other centers across the city, like Crown and the Kentlands and elsewhere. So, through that public input and through our questions in the Planning Commission, we were really able to push them to think, bigger and broader, so that yes, it's going to be a wonderful thing for the people of Gaithersburg, but it's also going to be an economic driver to bring people from across the region, just like the Lake Forest Mall was when it opened in the 70s. So again, coming back to the idea of preservation and development, it's important that, even with our housing, we passed a multifamily, or we created this multifamily improvement loan program so that landlords could make sustainability improvements in some of those legacy apartments so that they wouldn't be gentrified, so that you'd be able to, have folks get those improvements and not have their rent be raised. So really proud of that work as well.
Thank you. Chris?
And thank you. I was a little bit younger than everybody else here, so I didn't get to enjoy the mall in the same way everyone else got to. By the time I was about 5 or 6, I think that was probably the last time I really went to the mall regularly, because we used to go to see Santa and everything else, until we stopped going, when it started to go in a decline a little bit more, and that was sad for the city overall. I thank you very much for the question. One thing that I'm excited about with the Lake Forest project is that, most of the work on the planning has already been done, and I think largely been done well. I think the biggest concerns that I had with it then were on transportation, because you're already going to have 355 and 124 pretty well blocked up now, and it's hard to travel through there as it is. I also see it as a great, having a good potential to create a buffer between Old Town and some of Montgomery Village, as far as crime, and keeping the areas a little bit still together, as like the gateway to in Montgomery Village, the gateway back to Gaithersburg. But I think it'll help the entire area generally. The biggest priorities with Lake Forest now are making sure the project gets finished, and making sure the developers will come in and complete the project. And the second thing would be making sure it drives the economic development we think it can. What can we do to bring businesses in? So thank you very much for the question. I'm very excited for Lake Forest to come online.
Thank you, Chris. Amo Damola.
I'm not a fan of development. I'm a fan of redevelopment. Um, I'm not a fan of development to the point where it's at the cost of the community, at the cost of 100-year-old trees being cut down, and that's it. There goes our history. There goes a legacy. Uh, I don't know if the community had a say in this, but clearly they didn't, because those trees are gone. So again, when it comes to preserving the history of the city, I'm from where you would say people over profit. Cutting down trees, 100-year-old trees, is the opposite of that. We can't say we're here for economical development when we're just destroying our own history for profit. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Amo. We're now moving on to the next question. This round is going to start with Jim. What specific actions can you take to support younger residents who have obtained education but are facing challenges finding unemployment?
What a great question. I have a 18-year-old and a 21-year-old, and my 21-year-old is getting ready to graduate college, and my 18-year-old is hoping to actually just submitted his college applications this evening. So that was pretty exciting. It is a big challenge for all of us. If any of you have been the job market in general, not just for our youth, but myself and many other folks who have lost their job this year. I got laid off from my position in February, not related to the government. And then we, of course, have the furlough going on. My wife is a furloughed Fed as well. It's a difficult market. And we've seen, even with teens trying to get summer jobs, it's been really, really difficult. So it's not just a Gaithersburg challenge, unfortunately. We do have some really good resources here in the city and in the county as well. The WorkSource Montgomery, of course, is a really good resource. And there's also the skilled trades classes that we have with schools, being able to connect our youth to potentially good paying labor jobs in the future. I actually just met today with Councilmember Wu and Councilmember Wu and with our economic development staff, talking about next year's budget and how can we support small business? How can we connect people to the resources that are out there? So we were trying to lay out the plan, things that we can do now, and then are there things that we can put into the budget as well? One of the most important things for for kids these days that are, looking to get into the workforce and be able to be successful on their own, is to have a firm foundation in, economic well-being, and being able to balance a checkbook, and being able to, learn how to invest in those kinds of things. And the city created a financial empowerment center a few years ago, and it's a free resource for people in the city. And it can help everything from, getting your credit score up, learning, being banked. There are some folks that are unbanked, and how to get a bank account, and teaching you how to, even balance a checkbook. So those are just some of the options that we have there in the city.
Thank you. Moving on to Chris.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of I have some friends of mine, two of them have helped me out quite a bit on my campaign, who are having a tough time finding jobs right now. One of them has got a master's degree in information systems, I think, and another one, Bachelor of Arts in political science. And, right now with the government getting rid of some employees, or furloughing plenty of people, and not hiring at the moment because of the furlough, you have a lot of people who are having a tough time finding their jobs. I think the biggest thing we need to work on is making sure that we diversify our economy. We need to bring in more people than just biotech. I think the biotech that we do have is wonderful, and I think it serves our population very well, especially the educated population who can really go in and work in the labs there. But at the same time, we can change city regulations to promote that as well. I have different friends who've talked about starting food trucks at different points, and the way that it currently works in the city is you can't park trailers in residential neighborhoods, which makes some sense. But at the same time, where do you keep your food truck when it's not stationed in the same spot over and over again? A lot of the time, you see that shifted to other parts of the county, if they're even in the county at all. So it's just one example of the types of code changes that we can make in order to make it easier for people to start businesses right here in Gaithersburg that can stay here. I know that a lot of the time, different bars and restaurants couldn't imagine staying open without, or mostly bars, honestly, without having food trucks to service them. So making sure that we have policies that are helping those types of businesses stay open is something I'm very interested in doing. And that's just one example, but I think it's illustrative. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Omo?
So a few of the nonprofits I worked with, especially with the youth, I come across a pattern where kids, young teenagers, well, I want to say like teenagers like 18, 17, 18, 19, they have all this energy, they want to work, but the thing is, they want this instant gratification. And when I try to connect them with jobs, certain employers would put them in a catch-22. You can't get a job unless you have experience. You can't have the experience unless you get a job. So what do we do? What can the city do? I'm envisioning incentives for businesses for internships, and also partnering with WorkSource Montgomery. And also, it was already mentioned, but the Financial Empowerment Center is one of the best things in Gaithersburg when it comes to financial literacy and just overall teaching people about the importance of just managing your money skills and budgeting. So that's what I'm picturing. That's what I'm envisioning altogether. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
Thank you. This becomes a tougher question daily. So advice that I would have given, or answers that I would have given just 2 months ago, still don't fit anymore. I run into young people all the time who are looking for work or are underemployed. I consistently refer them to WorkSource Montgomery, and it has been a benefit. I get responses back of thank yous. So even if you're what it, if you're unable to find a job, it gives you the opportunity to also learn a new skill. And also with the Financial Empowerment Center, which has been mentioned, is also a resource that I want to highlight is particularly for young people who are starting out in their careers and starting out with in levels of income that they've never seen before, to make sure that they're being good stewards over their finances. It's a tough time. Keep at it. It's also a great time to network. So I am going to encourage those who are currently unemployed to volunteer, to look for opportunities to volunteer. The city of Gaithersburg has on the website has a plethora of commissions and boards to join, and you don't always have to live in the city to be on one of those boards. And it's a great opportunity for youth to do that, to learn it, not only to learn a new skill, but to also network with others, so that when the job market does shift a bit and starts to open, then you're connected to individuals who are going to continue to help you find your way throughout the market. So times will hopefully get better sooner than we think. So it is a tough time though right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our next question. So this is the first of our candidate-specific questions. As we mentioned during our earlier broadcast, these are questions about things that our candidates may have said, or maybe it's in their campaign materials or on their website. These are not meant to be gotcha kind of questions. We are only interested in just understanding what the candidates are thinking, what their positions is on certain topics. So if there's something that is attributed to the candidates that isn't quite what they said or quite what they were thinking, we do invite the candidates to clarify what it was saying and then continue to go on to the topic. We do want to just make it clear that we're not interested in tripping anybody up. We just want to understand. So do feel free to clarify anything that needs to be clarified as we ask these questions. Each candidate will have a different question. The order for this round is Chris, Omo, Lisa, and Jim. So Chris, this question is for you. You've stated your opposition to rent control while being concerned about young people, especially being priced out of the market. If elected, what alternative programs would you propose to encourage landlords to keep rents below market rate for a set period? And how would the city monitor compliance? Let me get the timer on for you. Okay.
Okay, so what I would say to this one here is that rent control has had negative impacts on the supply that we have in Montgomery County. I recommend reading the Montgomery Perspective if you want to look into this more. Adam Pagnuccio has done a great job of covering done a good job of covering all of the negative repercussions of how we have no more rental units coming in at the countywide level because they're not being developed anymore. I'd say that that's not going to help. Rent control is not going to help people it's not going to help people from being priced out of the market. I think that what we do have right now is what's called inclusionary zoning, which is in minimal way, it's restrictions on the type of housing that you have. You have AMI schedules that will it's 20% of our units are affordable based on the standards used in those development. They tend to be a lot more attractive to developers, which helps both the price aspect and the supply issue. We want to make sure that we have the supply coming in, because I agree with the mayor that supply is the only way to get out of the problem that we're in of unaffordability, because we have a housing shortage. We have that what we have right now in the city is designed for people like my brother or sister who are both in their first 5 years of teaching, or me as a state employee, or someone like my friend Eliza, who's a plumber, or my friend Philip, who does pool maintenance. People who make under, say, 120 a year as an individual, that's what we have currently. And I think that it's starting to work, because in just the last 5 or 10 years, we've seen more of those come online. I don't think that rent control is going to be the solution. I don't think you can encourage landlords to keep rents below market rate for a set period, but I don't really know that you want to do that. I think you want to have low cost market rate housing. And the way to do that as an economics major in college is you increase the supply compared to what the demand is. A lot of people want to move to Gaithersburg. Gaithersburg is one of the greatest places on earth, as Sidney Cash would say, and I want to keep it that way. So I don't know that you want to keep it below market rate, but I think you can make market rate a different price on supply fixes alone. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Elmo, here is the question that voters had for you. You support programs for our youth and vulnerable populations. What types of programs do you envision, and how would they be implemented, and how would they be financed?
Yes. So the city has a thing where you would they would do like the mayor for today, where elementary school kid or would write an essay, an impressive essay, and they'll be recognized by the mayor. I think that's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool. I think that we can push that further, where we can have a youth committee, where the students, the teenagers, can actually serve the city, and serving the city, they can build leadership skills, internships. It can lead to so many potential careers just simply serving the city. Plus, it's something they can gain pride in. We have high school students coming from Chris Orchard, coming from Gaithersburg High School, doing whatever they feel when they get out of school. But what if they say, hey, I can't do this, I gotta go, join the committee at like 4 or 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. It will give them a sense of urge. Not only that, they don't have to be like a 4.0 overachieving student. They can just be a student in the city. And I just think that's just something we can do. The city already has like really good advisory boards and really good committees. I'm envisioning something for the youth, where they can, also get a piece of that pie, if you understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, the next question is for you. You have championed a feasibility study for a new multi-generational center. What is your concrete plan and timeline for bringing this capital project to completion, and how will it be funded?
Thank you. Thank you for that one. I love this question. So I'm very proud of championing that feasibility study. So we've received the first round from the consultant of what an intergenerational uh, program would look like, including the facility. And there was a big dollar amount on there. So we're going through the study again to look for not different alternatives, but different ways to price and programs that are needed. It is I can't stress enough the benefit, and we know it always already from the nationally recognized beloved community that's right here in the city of Gaithersburg. But I can't stress enough of the benefit of youth and seniors together, of what youth can learn from seniors, what seniors can benefit from having youth in their lives, of keeping lively, of keeping active, of keeping mindful. That intergenerational program, that facility is the key to doing that work. We've got great youth programs. We have an incredible senior center in the city. To merge those two to become a single program and have youth youth and seniors working together is a benefit that I am so excited that we have budgeted and funded In terms of timeline, yesterday would have been nice, but we've got some planning and work to do to get there. So there is no time frame set yet for it. We still got some studying to do, some things to look at. This is a big project that we're taking on, so we want to do it correctly. But the things that we have in place, that the city has in place today, are already beneficial. We just want to merge some things and make it more beneficial for everyone collectively. Thank you. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Lisa. Jim, next question is for you. You've stressed your role as a consensus builder. Please name one piece of legislation or policy that you strongly supported but had to compromise on significantly to gain consensus, and explain what you gave up achieving its passage. I'll let that sit there for just a minute.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, it's so funny because we get so many different things that come across our desk, and you know, sometimes you're on sometimes we're all on the same page, and you get a 5-0 vote. We've had situations where there was a 3-2 vote. In fact, I can go back to a couple of 3-2 votes. Thinking about, we had a situation, one of my very first votes, where there was a car wash that was planned for Old Town, or Old Town adjacent was Deer Park. It was at Central and 355, and I was one of the people that voted against it. It ended up being a 3-2 vote. I didn't think it was right for the community. So that wasn't consensus, but it was about having to weigh the issues. A lot of times it's massaging an issue to get it to a point that everybody's happy. I've been very fortunate with my colleagues on the council, where we'll have one-on-ones. I get regular calls from Councilmember Hernandez, and we'll talk about different things. And then you can see the process, how the sausage gets made up on the dais. Opens Meetings Act, we can only ever be in, to get, have a quorum and discuss the issues in public. So we can do one-on-one, but once you get more than 2 of us together, you've got a quorum, unless it's the mayor, because he doesn't get a vote. I am struggling to think about one particular thing off the top of my head, but in the supplemental materials, I'll do some recollecting and see which of those projects, because I know there's been times where you just don't get everything that you want. And actually, you know what? I can pull one up and apologize as I'm thinking out loud here. We recently had our budget priorities discussion for what we want the staff to be working for 27. And we all were asked to come up with 5 different pieces. And the meeting I mentioned today was Rob Wu and I both had ideas that were business development. So we agreed in that meeting that we would combine our ideas to give that a shot of moving forward together. And it was one of the ones that moved forward. But had several ideas of mine that didn't, and we voted, and that was the way that we went. And some of the things that I'm still passionate about, I'm going to try again next year.
Thank you. So moving on to our next question. We're going to start with Omo and then move to Lisa, Jim, and Chris. So the question is this: citizens explicitly state that they feel they are not being respected or listened to. What reforms would you implement to restore public trust and demonstrate genuine accountability and ensure resident input is incorporated into solutions? All right, you may begin, Omo.
Okay, so I'm no stranger when it comes to advocating and for the unheard, and I know what's it like to express concerns to leadership and or those in charge, and just it's like you're talking to a brick wall. I believe it starts with some type of cultural training competence where you can have all the resources, but if you don't know how to utilize those resources and equitably distribute them, it's it's for nothing. It's a waste of resources. I'm gonna just do like a rough example. Someone in a hole. Man, picture somebody in a hole, right? Need help. They need to get out this hole. They got themselves in a hole. And the person with the resources, they have a ladder, they have a rocket booster, they have a rope, they throw all of that down the hole. But the person's like, I don't know how to use a ladder. How do I use this rope? Why is this? How do I use this booster? But the person up with the resources said, hey, I did all that I can. I gave you all of the resources. I gave you all that you need to get. I gave you more than what you need to get out this hole. All you have to do is utilize one of the things. So that's a rough example. Like in order to address the needs, we have to know how to even give these people the needs in the right and the equitable way. And also what I'm picturing is when it comes to the community, we have to identify leaders first. And identifying leaders is by working with the churches, the nonprofits, the PTAs. They're everywhere. We just have to figure out a way to collaborate in a way where we can move forward as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, same question.
Thank you. This question bothers me that it has to be said. I spend a lot of time in the community. I attend other churches. My mother's a pastor, and I still attend churches that aren't mine, so that I can meet the community where they worship. I see community members in grocery stores. I attend sporting events at the high school. I spend time at the high schools to try to meet people where they are instead of them needing to come to City Hall. It's as diverse as our city is. That's a challenge to meet all levels of, and I'm not talking about race or language or culture. I'm talking about economic diversity, diversity and levels of education to meet everyone. Government speak makes it difficult. I am excited what we did with our upgrading our zoning laws because we did it in plain language, not tough government speak. Zoning's challenging on its own without all the government lingo thrown in there. And I was very excited to see that the city had changed it to plain English. And we're doing that much more. You'll see on the city website, you see more things just in plain English versus government lingo or government talk. I think that's a big help in terms of meeting folks where they are. When someone is in the middle of being challenged by something financial or something health wise, the last thing they want to do is click on a link that gives them a lot of words that are hard to decipher. So we are working on making things more plain language so that folks can understand and how to get help. I, I make myself very available, as do all my council colleagues, to the public. Our information is out there. We receive phone calls and emails, and we do respond. We do respond to those emails, to those phone calls, to help people where they're needed, and we will continue to do that. So I hope this question at some point disappears because we are working for that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Jim. Do I have that right? Yes. Okay.
Yes. I love this question, well, and I like what Lisa said about meeting people where they are. As a communication major, we're always taught that, communication is twofold. It's the sender and the receiver. And if the receiver isn't getting the message that you wanted, then there's a problem, right? We've been working really hard, as Lisa mentioned, about improving the way that we communicate and providing more options, the way that, we can solicit feedback from the community. You'll see a lot more things in Spanish, for example. There's a lot of, for the election example, we have a lot of materials out in Spanish, including advertisement in Spanish as well. We also are talking about some of the listening sessions that we had for some of our recent projects, like Retool Gaithersburg, like Lisa was just talking about. Because we were talking, there were opportunities for presentations to be in Spanish, but one of the things that I brought is, well, do we have the ability for the people who speak Spanish to then reply? And originally we weren't really doing that. So we've been getting a lot more real-time Spanish translation so that people can not just hear the information, but ask questions in their native language as well. And I think that's going to be really important as we go forward. And it's also about, different times of day. People work different shifts, and being able to connect with them in the way that they're used to, whether it's in social media, whether it's a Zoom call. In fact, I'll put a plug in for our Move Safe program. We have a virtual community forum next Wednesday for the Gaithersburg Move Safe program about pedestrian safety. You may have seen signs around the community with a QR code. That's an opportunity to register for that and provide your information. These are different ways that we're trying to get that out. We certainly want everybody to participate, whether it's a public forum, whether it's sending us an email. We just had council in the communities the other night. We had a great turnout at the Casey Community Center, and people appreciate the fact that we come there, because some folks are intimidated coming into City Hall at an official meeting. And I was walking the neighborhood with one of the HOA chairs, neighboring in Audubon Square, and we ran into a bunch of different neighbors and had some great conversations. And that's what it's about: being available, being a part of the community, and then being able to serve that community.
Thank you. We are moving on to Chris.
Yeah, so I'll agree with everybody on what you guys are saying on different reforms we can take. But I also think that one of the toughest parts of being elected, if elected, would be, I heard from a wise person once that the toughest part of being elected is making decisions are right, or you think are right, while everyone around you tells you you're wrong. And to be a good council member is to learn the art of compromise. And in a good compromise, some folks end up being disappointed. There are no solutions, only trade-offs is a favorite quote of mine right now. You can't build without having some trade-off in some other way. And that's something that we all need to recognize, is that, at an economic level, things might change. At a social level, things might change if you do anything. So I think it's incumbent on candidates to engage as many voters as possible and to listen to them. I think it's even more important to engage citizens when you are elected, and really engaging with people outside of election years. The model for this, as far as I can tell, is current council member Jamil Hernandez, who knocks on in non-election years just to hear what people are concerned about. I was knocking in a community not too long ago, and they had a concern about, they just had a concern, and they talked about how engaged Jamil was at responding to that. And if elected, I promise to be as good a representative to the folks from East Gaithersburg as my own neighborhood would, as I would be for my own neighborhood, and follow Jamil's lead on that one. For example, when developments, programs, or projects are being done in one area, I'll go to those areas and listen to them about what their concerns are, what excites them, what makes them a little bit scared. And I think that we need to do that at a higher level than, I don't know what specific reforms I would put in, but I do think that there's a lot that we can do to make sure that we are engaged in what people are most concerned about at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Moving on to our next question. This round, the order is Lisa, Jim, Chris, and Omo. Citizens are concerned about road and property flooding during heavy rains, linking it to development and water runoff. What specific policies, measurable actions, or infrastructure investment would you champion to reduce runoff and alleviate flooding in existing residential areas? So Lisa, we are starting with you.
Thank you for the question. We have I'm going to use the word aggressive stormwater program that's specifically outlined to specifically in place to handle these issues. When I was out knocking doors recently, I knocked on the door of a neighbor who immediately took me out to her side yard to show me that whenever it rained, she lived at the end of a slope on her street, and that whenever it rained, the water, she had a drain about 2 feet from where the water would turn off and go down her yard. And she was very concerned that whenever there were heavy rains, her yard was flooded. We started to have a conversation about the city, what the city can do, and she had not reached out to the city. I was so glad to be there at that time because I went right back when I got home and went reached out to Public Works, and they were out the next day to have a conversation with her to see what they could do. Well, not what they can do, what they will do about the slope. They saw the slope and they saw where the runoff is occurring. It's important to reach out to the city when you're having issues because the response is incredible. We do have a very aggressive storm water management and floodplain program. We just updated the floodplains based on the Maryland state regulations. So, and that was earlier this year, I believe. So there's work there all the time. But if you see something, please contact the city and let us know because if there's a problem that needs to be corrected, it should be corrected immediately. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was a great example that Lisa had, and it just goes to show that, we can't be everywhere, and we need to know when there's issues in different areas. The city has been, trying to work with older HOAs and neighborhoods regarding stormwater management. Any of the newer developments, that it's required that they have, state-of-the-art stormwater, and that's one of the great things from an environmental standpoint about Lake Forest is that, instead of having that 102 acres of asphalt, we're going to have modern stormwater facilities in that place. But where I live in Saybrook, when I was the HOA president, we had started to have some conversations with the former city manager Tony Tomasello about whether the city would take over the stormwater, which is actually the pond in Saybrook. And they're having conversations with them. We ended up not moving forward with Saybrook. I don't remember why off the top of my head. But it's important to be able to upgrade some of those facilities where we can. You also notice that some of the properties, mine included, the way that some of the channeling was designed is that we get water on ours too, but it's meant to kind of flow the water from the slope behind us away from our basements and onto the street. And actually, my next door neighbor had said he wanted to bring somebody out to try and level the ground. I said, no, that's what keeps it out of our basement. And he's like, oh, okay. So that's why it's important to make sure you check with the city and show us what's happening, because it may just be a feature and not a flaw, or it might need to be tweaked. So I think that would be that's where I would start. And if you do have an issue, you can reach out to myself, to Lisa, the mayor, or any of the staff, and we can try and get our team out there and take a look.
Thank you. Chris, same question.
Yeah, it's hard to follow two incumbents on that because they gave such great answers there. I think that it is going to be a bigger problem in older neighborhoods than newer neighborhoods. Even in places like Kentlands or Lakelands that are 25 years old, you're going to have a lot less of these issues than other neighborhoods that might be closer to 35 or 40 years old, 50 years old. So the new regulations that we have make it so that you have to have those stormwater maintenance plans ahead of time. That being said, I think that one of the most important roles of a council member is that of liaison. I was talking to a council member who talked about how during a snowstorm they had they fielded a lot of calls who didn't know who to talk to about snow removal at this time or that time, especially during even Snowmageddon quite a while ago. as a liaison, as Jim just said, reach out to any of the elected members, certainly. But even I've fielded questions from people in Relda Square where they had a park overgrowing into some of the backyards that people were pretty annoyed about. At some point, I knocked on the door and talked to the person who was there, and they said that they've been trying to figure out how to get this solved for quite a while. Turned out it wasn't a park that was owned by the city. It was run by the HOA, but at least guiding them in the right direction and telling them who they can talk to really opened everything up for them. And so as a council member, we are first and foremost liaisons to the staff. The city manager works for the council, not even for the mayor technically, although he's the president of the council in that way. But when you have issues with the city or in terms of roads or any type of infrastructure, always reach out to the city. And you can even reach out to me and I can help guide you in the right direction. And you can reach out to me at tomsforgaithersburg@gmail.com. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I can go. So, one of the things I hate about being last is I can't. Those are amazing answers and responses to the storm drain. Um, I don't know how to add further. It's like adding icing to an already perfected cake. Like all of them was just awesome things. I agree with everybody. Me, I'm with the cold climate uh, coalition environmental initiative, where we would do surveys and we would we would collaborate with the county government, with the emergency services, and we would take surveys about like where the most complaints about, what are these complaints about, and we'll do these demographic studies, and it's through there where we can further address like who is like the most where the most needs to be met. That's one thing I'm looking at, and also I'm big on forest preservation. Trees, we need the trees. And so, I'm not big on like development that is making this whole city a concrete jungle. It works, like it absorbs water, and we've been getting more and more rain, more and more heavier. Well, actually, less snow. So we have to prepare. And so by preparing, we need better development. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to pause here to check in with the candidates. We did get started a little bit later. I do want to understand if anyone has a hard stop at 9:30 or if folks are fine working through the rest of the questions.
I actually do have a hard stop of 9:30.
And I do too. I'm so sorry.
No worries, no worries. So I think at this time, then we will start with our closing statements. Okay. So the last round started with Lisa. So I'm sorry, the last round started with started with Lisa. So we will start with Jim with his closing statement. Okay, let me spotlight you.
Thank you so much, Chaz. And thank you to everybody at EGU who helped put this together tonight. I also want to thank my fellow candidates for your shared passion of public service. This election is about leadership, it's about experience, and it's about trust. And I've worked really hard to build that trust over these last 4 years, both with the community and my colleagues at all levels of government. We can't do anything in government with just one vote. It's about building relationships, shared goals, and collaboration. That's why I'm proud to have the endorsement of more than 24 current and former elected officials, including my colleagues on the council and former Congressman David Trone. But the endorsements that matter really are you, the voters. One of the things I love about being a council member is that one day you're talking about these transformational projects like Lake Forest, and the next you're answering constituent questions like can we add that speed bump here, or can we get a stop sign over there? And many of you have emailed me or texted me those questions over these last 4 years. Gaithersburg isn't the greatest city in the world by accident. It's because of people like you who care enough about their city to give up part of their Thursday evening so you can cast an informed vote. The voters of Gaithersburg have a history of electing public servants who truly care. I've done my best to carry that mantle, and with your support, I look forward to continuing to serve as your council member. If you have any more questions beyond this evening, you can always reach out to me on my socials or through my website, jimmcnulty.org. And as you may have heard, early voting is this Sunday at Borough Park, and Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th, also at Borough Park, or it's not too late to send in your mail-in ballot as well. Thank you so much for your consideration. I ask you to vote Jim McNulty for Gaithersburg City Council. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you. Chris.
Oh, that was great. Thank you very much for putting this event together, and for everyone who's watching now, all 30 of you, for being engaged in this process on a Thursday night as well. To amend my answer slightly from a little bit earlier on, about my no rent control position from earlier, I wanted to clarify, I agree with the mayor that supply is a solution to the housing shortage we are facing as a city, as a region, and as a country. The fastest way to solve the affordable housing crisis is to make Gaithersburg more attractive to the developers who can build the housing we need to balance out supply with demand. Some cities have seen better results by pairing supply fixes like MPDUs, workforce housing units, and ADUs with other creative ideas like community land trusts in Austin, gentle density loans for small builders in Minneapolis, or bonus density incentives like in Arlington, so developers include more affordable units in those areas. Again, there are solutions other than rent control to bringing down the price of rent and homes. So to strike a slightly different tone in my conclusion, I want to say I think the most important issue in this election is vision. For the last 20 years, Gaithersburg is focused on developments like Crown, Hidden Creek, Watkins Mill, and Lake Forest. However, space for large developments like that are dwindling without altering our communities and green space. I'm running to shape the vision for our next 20 years. I want to work with MDOT and WMATA to push for an extension of the Red Line from City Grove to Old Town, like the mayor achieved with the construction of the Watkins Mill interchange. I want to make Gaithersburg friendlier to business, like food trucks and entrepreneurs through permitting and regulatory reform. I want to make residents safer by hiring more police officers and paying them better, bringing it from about 65 officers to about 85. Election day is this November 4th. Early voting is this Sunday, October 26th. And you can still request your mail-in ballot until next Tuesday, October 28th. I ask for your vote to make Gaithersburg a better place for everyone to live, work, play, and learn. Thank you.
Omo?
So I think thank you for having us. Again, I'm running for City Council of Gaithersburg, and I'm just a person of lived experience. I worked, I lost my place, I had to start all over again, and I had the opportunity when I was at the shelter to pick a city in the county when I was on a housing voucher. And out of all the cities in Montgomery County, I chose to raise my daughters in Gaithersburg because Gaithersburg has so much potential, and I did my research. And so what I want to work for is a city where it's safe to ride your bike to work. There's plenty of times I had no choice. I had to rely on my bike to go to work, and I almost got hit because the some of the sidewalks it just stops and goes straight into the street and merges straight into the street. And I want to stop that. I want to work on better development for the people like me who have to rely on public transportation or rely on a bike. And it's just that when it comes to leadership, you can't just to serve a city. You have to know what's it like to be a customer. You have to know what's it like to ask for resources, to be that person, and that's me. I want to change the stuff because I've experienced resources, services that was not really too good. And I was told, hey, that's just how that's just how the policy is. So, okay, let's change the policy. What will it take to change it? And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to the last, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity this evening. I am a child of an ordained minister. My mother is a pastor, and I grew up in church and in service. And service of others was what was instilled in me from the time of birth. We were always to think of others before thinking of ourselves. I and that is meaningful to me in serving the city of Gaithersburg and serving the residents of the city of Gaithersburg. It's complicated what we do as council members, and we do it with such passion, with such thought. Outside looking in, including me, before I became a council member, it looked like here's an issue. We're going to snap a finger and fix it. I wish it were that easy. It's commitment, it's tireless work, it is agreements, and it is kind disagreements. All those things must happen within the realm of doing this work as a council member every single day. I've done it for the past 4 years. My work is not done, and I want to do it for the next 4 years and beyond. And I would be more than privileged if the city of Gaithersburg residents would have me again as a council member to sit on that council and serve them for the next 4 years. It is my absolute privilege. My website is Lisa Henderson at lisahenderson.org. That is it. And I want to remind you that election day, early voting is this coming Sunday. We're gonna get there on Sunday. And November 4th is the final election day. Even if you're mailing in your ballot or if you're dropping it off, make sure it is stamped for the mail by November 4th, or you drop it off in the drop box by November 4th. And I just want to say I'm endorsing both Judd Ashman and Jim McNulty because
Your
they are the
time
best at what they
is
do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I want to just thank all of the candidates for joining us today. You gave us a lot to think about, provided some wonderful solutions. And so I think it can be a very tough competition for what's going to happen when we go to the polls. We look forward to seeing all of you in the community in some fashion. For those who are, you're all very passionate about our city. And so I absolutely hope that regardless of what happens, that you all still plan to stay very active and that, we can all just continue working together to make the city great. That said, the last pieces of what we have for this evening are just the closing remarks, which is the event has been recorded and live streamed, and we will send a link to everybody who registered. We'll do that by Saturday. There will be written responses from the candidates, and we'll email those before November 4th. You can email us at info@gaithersburgunited.com if you want to join our discussions and work to advocate for Gaithersburg. We want to thank everyone for participating in this process, all of the candidates, all of the volunteers from East Gaithersburg United. EGU just continues to encourage you to participate in the process and advocate for yourselves in the city. That said, I want to wish everyone a good night and best of luck to all of the candidates.